Welcome. This is MoneyHeart, where we explore the emotional side of money. I'm Camille Diaz, and today we're discussing evidence of abundance. My guest is Merianne Drew. She's a personal coach and provides best practices guidance and intuitive support to individuals seeking clarity and courage in creating a life of follow-through, grounded in truth and inspired by personal revelation. Merianne is also a holistic nutritionist, wife, and mother of 3. In addition, Merianne coordinates a bi-weekly meetup in which she facilitates relationship rehab. She's also the group coordinator of a Course in Miracles discussion group, a holy text in which her personal philosophy is rooted. Merianne, welcome to MoneyHeart.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. You managed to go from a money scarcity viewpoint to a money abundance viewpoint, but that didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like an instant flip a switch process.
And if it had been a flip a switch, I wouldn't appreciate it.
This is so true. Yes, you're 100% right.
Work hard for it.
Yes, it's hard to have the gratitude if you haven't worked a bit. So what were your thoughts around money before you had this shift? Like, kind of how did you normally function?
Well, I kind of grew up when I was small, we were poor. And then, as my parents grew their careers, things got better. And but the talk around money was very much scarcity.
Yeah.
The mindset, the beliefs that just get passed on by who we are to our children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, especially later on, when my parents experienced scarcity going, kind of went backwards, closing all the windows and putting boards on the windows in the summer to save energy.
Yep.
But my mental state suffered because I love the sunshine. It helps me.
Oh, yeah.
Light, being in a dark place affects your psychology,
It does. Now, did you grow up in a deserty, hot environment?
Arizona. Yeah.
Arizona. Yeah. So I grew up in Southern California towards desert area. Same thing. I knew quite a few families who would keep all the blinds closed, all the curtains closed during the day. And then when the sun starts to go down, the temperature drops drastically because it's desert. And then you can open everything just as it's getting dark, which is awesome for seeing sunlight.
Dark and more dark.
More dark. Oh, look, it's dark again. Exactly.
Yeah. And just being screamed at if the door was left open, right? And having the door locked, like deadbolted locked, so we couldn't open it.
Wow.
Summer.
So you're trapped.
Yes. And then even in the summer, so my parents had sort of a laundry room that was apart from the house, apart like in the garage carport area. And so in the summertime, there was a stove and an oven in there that we would cook outside. It was already awful hot. And then we would be in front of a hot stove.
Yes. So that you wouldn't heat up the rest of the house because you don't want the bedrooms to be hot at night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it costs so much money to cool this house. You're trying to put me in the poorhouse by leaving the door up, like these comments. Yeah. And so it sank in, and the first like exposure I got to different ideas as far as like your thoughts create your reality. Abundance is a state of mind. Scarcity is a state of mind. I was young. I was 19. I had joined my first direct sales company. And these new ideas were being introduced, and I mostly thought it was BS. Like I wanted to believe it. Right. And I wanted to believe that people who had money were just the same as me. They just choose different thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to believe that, but it also meant that I'm fully responsible for my reality.
Oh, darn.
I'm fully responsible for my thoughts. And I was not ready for that. I went into adulthood kicking and screaming.
I'm in charge of this show? Really? Like,
Yeah, I was not ready to not be a victim of my circumstances. So, I mean, the seed was planted and I wanted to believe it, but I wasn't ready. I wasn't completely fed up with my own BS yet. So there was plenty of hard knocks and experiences. And I found myself age 31 or something, 3 kids living in my dad's house that I grew up in, with the windows boarded up.
Oh gosh, still doing it.
And my husband, yeah, and just so much scarcity going on, and so much anxiety and stress. And I started going to a church because I realized, okay, something's got to give. I don't want to be like this. And I started by a really cool, serendipitous, the things lining up. I found myself in the Science of Mind church, and Science of Mind is basically the law of attraction, right? And I started, attending this, and the seeds started to be germinating in my mind. And I started noticing that the more I stressed about the bank account balance, the more I created more stressful scarcity, overdrawing, having to buy groceries on credit card situations. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want this anymore. And I'm kind of at the end of my rope trying to do what I've always done. So I'll try that whole mindset thing.
If I have to, because everything else is not working, I guess I'll try this mindset thing that everyone keeps saying is fabulous and fine.
Right. And we don't change unless there's nothing else we can do, right? We're at the end of our rope.
Right. So true.
And so I started to look for evidence that could be true. And putting my attention on it and making a conscious point of saying, well, I've always had my bills paid one way or another, even if I had to use a credit card for a month or whatever, they still got paid. I've never been evicted. I've never had credit card companies calling me every day trying to collect. I've never had that situation. I know people who have had that situation, but that never happened to me. So just consciously saying and giving attention to that evidence that, okay, it's not as bad as my brain wants me to think it is.
Yes. So talk about that a little bit more, because you're getting onto that concept of confirmation bias of what you think, you look for evidence to support that. So whatever it is you're thinking, you're automatically looking for evidence. So tell us about this and how we can work around it.
Yeah. So confirmation bias is a very strong cognitive bias that we have, and it's there to keep us alive. Right? Our brains evolved in a time when there was plenty of threats to our safety. And so focusing on the negative worked out in our favor because it kept us alive.
Right. This one thing made me feel sick before. Therefore, every plant that looks like that will make me feel sick, and I won't touch any of them.
So I have to protect myself. So we go into protection mode, right? And so that confirmation bias can be really strong. But the interesting thing about our frontal lobe is it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
So it's given us the ability to transcend that fight or flight, protect and defend, attack and defend, innate nature, right? But as we start to transcend that part of us, we can start identifying with our mind and thinking that we are our thoughts, and then our thoughts can completely run away with us, and we get very egoic in the more enlightened intellectual way, right? And faith goes out the window. Right? So really there's the balance between that chaos and order that we're all working on towing that line. So when I realized that, okay, maybe I can try this out and as an experiment to see if it will work. And so I was listening to Marie Forleo at the time, and her thing that she talked about her journey from scarcity. She grew up in a really, poor single mom household in Jersey. And so she said that when she started her journey to more abundance, she had a mantra that she would say. Do you want me to say it right now?
Yes, you can say it now and we'll share it again at the end.
Okay. So she would say, anytime she would run her debit card, she would say, there's always more where that came from.
Nice.
There's always more where that came from. And I would intentionally make myself say that there's always more where that came from. And I believed it because there always has been. We always made more money when there wasn't any, right?
Right.
And the other thing I started to do was, you know how when you run your debit card, it gives you the option to select, do you want cash back?
Yes.
Or not. And the old me was like, heck no.
I don't want cash
take
back.
any more money out of my
Put my money in my account. Don't take it out. Yes, for sure.
Right? I was like, what a stupid question. And so instead, I decided to start hitting yes. And I kept $10 to $20 in my wallet all the time. But it wasn't for me. Okay. It was for whomever I came across that was begging for money or was asking for cash or needed help or wanted to sell a candy bar for school or whatever it was. It wasn't for me. It was intentionally to insert myself into the flow of energy that is giving and receiving, which is the same energy, believe it or not. Generosity is also receiving, right? And so I was intentionally inserting myself into that flow by being more open-handed, giving so that my hands were open to receive.
Right? I love that idea of and I've kind of done the same thing of, when people that I know and have been friends with for a long time ask me for something, I try to figure out if I can say yes. Whereas in the past it would have been like, nope, I don't do those, or no, I don't. And now I go for I could probably donate to that. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't, but it just depends. But for the most
even
part,
asking the question, how could I?
Exactly.
How could I make that happen?
Yeah. How could I make that happen?
I started listening to also Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. And she said something in that book that really was a huge paradigm shift for me, or just like a new idea that really kind of full stop. She said, when you think abundantly, when you perceive abundance everywhere, it's impossible for you to be conned. It's impossible because you're not emotionally attached to holding on to the money that circulates through you. Yeah. And so people who are very wealthy, they leave their doors open when they go on vacation because they know there's always more where that came from.
Yeah.
And that was a huge shift for me. Like, what? Whoa, like not being in fear of being taken advantage of. You can never be taken advantage of. Not living in fear of being robbed. Like, take it. You want to live on the edge and risk being put in prison?
For my $40? Okay. Just take the $40. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was huge for me. So those two things, intentionally making sure I said yes to take out money, always saying there's more where that came from. Remembering the Bible verse, the lilies of the field are always clothed, the birds of the valley are always fed, and they never worry about it. They always know that's coming. And then it started to work. And the first indication that I noticed it started to, well, there's a few notification, things that helped me notice it. My husband's aunts had put together a Christmas package for us, and they had cash in there and presents and everything. And then they just forgot to send it. And so it was like June or July, and money was pretty tight. And I was like, where is this going to come from? I don't know what to do. And then I just held that faithful thought, like, it'll show up. I don't know how, it's just going to show up.
It's going to show up.
And then they remembered to send the package. And
hey, we have this basket for you.
From there was some cash. And I was like, that is perfect timing.
Problem solved. Yes. I love that. I love that concept. Yeah.
Those kinds of like miraculous things where the money would just come, like a check would come in the mail because our bank realized that they were charging us too much interest and they refunded us. Like those things would just start happening. And I was like, working. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then one day I was at Trader Joe's and it was a hot day in Arizona and I was wearing my fedora and I was leaving with my groceries, and the guy out in the parking lot collecting carts saw my hat and he goes, "Oh, that's a good hat. I need a hat like that." And that comment got me thinking, well, he should have a hat. And I got the idea, go buy the guy a hat. And that thought, the emotion that rose wasn't fear, like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. It was excitement.
Yeah.
Right. And that's when you know you're tapping into your intuition, is when you get an idea and that confirmation isn't here, it's here in your heart. And so I just got more excited the more I thought of it. And I had just gotten it up the road at Target. So I went up to Target, got him the exact same fedora, drove back, and I handed it to him. And it felt so good to be giving and generous and open-handed.
Right.
And I'm like, this is working. And it kept working. Somebody at my church had said, design your life exactly what you want. So I imagined this house. We were going to have our own home, and it was going to be red brick, and it was going to have the driveway on the right side going up to the garage, and there was going to be like a slope going up to it. And that's the house we're living in.
That's so cool.
It showed up.
That's awesome.
And the way that this house showed up too was like all the things lining up, serendipitous. We were looking, nothing really looked like, it was going to be the right thing. And then at the last minute, it just got listed. I called, they were like, yeah, come and see it. It worked out perfect. And this is the house that we're living in. And then like it was going really well. And then my husband decided that he was done being in the military full time. So the military had moved us, and that's how we got the house, right? And he was just done doing military full time.
Yeah.
And he had always pretty much done military full time. He'd taken a few breaks here and there, but he always went back to it. It's a pretty safe thing to do.
Yeah. You know what to expect. You know how it runs. You everything's laid out, super like tight plan. You know all the things. So
there's
totally
no uncertainty.
No uncertainty. That's right. I mean, maybe a little bit, and you don't know day-to-day stuff, but
right. Well, general... if you're in theater, there's a lot of uncertainty.
A lot of uncertainty there. Yes. But as far as the job goes, you've got money coming in, you know how much it is, you've got healthcare, you know a lot of these things are handled, and that someone's going to tell you what to do when you show up for work. Like you don't have to really worry about that.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So what happened when he left?
He was going to transition, and he was just going to find a civilian job here in this kind of smallish town that we're in. And he was going about it looking for a job in not the way that I would.
Yeah.
So I would look, if I were, I knew I was going to be out of a job, I would make it my job while I'm using up my leave on the end of it, right?
Savings or whatever.
I would make it my job to look for a job, and I'd be applying every single day, and I'd be like throwing out all the nets far and wide. Yeah. And he was employing a different strategy. And my brain said, because it's not it's not my strategy, it's the wrong strategy.
Wrong strategy. Because he wasn't doing what you thought made the most sense for someone to do in that position. Because you're like, okay, no time on the couch. We're going to get up like at work time. We're going to do our resume. We're going to send it out. We're going to make follow-up calls. I'm going to talk to all my old friends, work my network. Like you're doing it, right? And so what was his strategy?
Well, he was relaxed. He was in faith. He's like, I know I'm going to find something. And he was doing activity, just not the kind of like fast and furious activity that I imagined is necessary.
Yeah.
Right. And so then the more anxious I got, and the more I tried to keep my mouth shut about it, because I don't, the more tension there was. Right. And then eventually, of course, I blew up, and then I got him anxious, and it transferred to him feeling the way I was feeling. And that's not fair. But anyways, we were able to talk through it, and it ended up being, he found a job here in town. We didn't have to move. And it allowed us, the pay cut was less than half, right?
Okay.
So there was all these thoughts like, oh man, are we going to be able to make our mortgage? Are we going to be able to make our bills? And again, I tried that whole focusing on the balance again, the bank balance. And the more I focused on, oh man, we're cutting it close this month, and that anxiety and non-faithfulness, right? The fear, the more it was harder to meet the bills.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So then I was like, okay, I've done this before and it didn't work out, so I'm going to try the other thing.
Right.
So I got back to...
It was faster this time. It didn't take you like 11 years.
Yeah, for sure. So I just got back into my conscious mind instead of acting from my unconscious, unhealed place that was on its way to healing, but not completely yet. Right.
Sure.
And I just started affirming it's always going to be taken care of. We're always going to eat. We're always going to have a place to live. Mm-hmm. And and another thing that we started doing when we were still in Arizona that I intentionally started doing is a gratitude practice.
Oh,
So we play this game around our table now, and it's been 5 or 6 years now. So the kids start it because it's been repetition, right?
Yep.
Is share what you're grateful for. We always share what we're grateful for around the table, and that over repetition, right, programs your neural pathways in your brain to start having a more positive bent instead of negative bias bent.
Right. You're looking for what you're grateful for.
Yeah. And even the looking reprograms your brain, which is so amazing.
It
even
does.
if you don't find anything,
question. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's still working because you're rewiring your brain.
Right.
And so
I want to pause really quick because I want to say how great of an idea that is to redirect the like end of day conversation. I know for me growing up, a lot of the end of day conversation that I heard was complaining about how stupid and awful everyone else was during the day. And I think a lot of that influenced me into being an entrepreneur and being a coach and doing all of these things because I didn't want to live that life where every end of the day was talk about how bad my day was and how much I didn't like what I was doing. And it's possible that my parents probably really did like what they were doing. They just had some minor frustrations, and that's what came out when they got home. But somehow to me, that translated to, as a child, I really didn't like that. So I just think it's fabulous that you've got your kids focusing on gratitude, focusing on what's going well, focusing on what they enjoy. Not that they can't complain or express that something didn't go well. It's not like we're covering that up, but just to have that mindset of I'm looking for the good things.
Yeah. And Billy, my husband, he's done a lot of resilience training in the military. And they have a term for that in the military. It's called hunting the good.
I like it.
And something that we've started doing recently is we share our roses and thorns. So we share because we want to normalize that challenges are going to come up in your life. It's not all roses and daisies and rainbows and unicorns, right? And so emphasizing, okay, so what was challenging for you today that you overcame? Because that is bringing attention to the fact that, well, yeah, something unpleasant happened, but I'm strong enough, I'm resilient enough, I'm capable enough to handle it. And then also we share what we're grateful for. I love what you shared about like all experiences are neutral, right? So your parents sharing their frustrations around the dinner table created the contrast for you to decide, okay, this is what I don't want. So now that I know what I don't want, how can I create something else that I do want? Right. And two children can take that same experience and put different meaning on it and decide different things about it and just absorb it into their unconscious mind and be like, well, yeah, I guess life just sucks. Right?
Yeah, very much. Yes, very much so. So when we first talked about this, you mentioned this concept of creating money even if you're not collecting it every day. Say more things about that.
So when I really went serious with a direct sales company, I was young, and so I hadn't practiced this new mindset, and so I would still get into negative emotion just by default. So if I had invited somebody and they didn't show up, I get up in my mind drama like, oh, how rude is that? They didn't even show up, and I came on a Saturday morning and I bought the things and I got dressed up and I put on the, just like for me, right? And I really went, as much as I could, being who I was at the time, I went full bore for that. And it wasn't working out. I wasn't wholly on board with even being successful in that company because I couldn't see myself as a successful, especially in that company. And so I had done lots of interviews to get people to come along with me, right, to recruit. And every no was like a, but by the time I was on my way out, I was emotionally detached from the company. I was ready. I was looking for another job, and I had gotten a job instead of being an entrepreneur, right? And I was just on my way out, and suddenly these appointments that I'd had a year ago that had said no were ready. And they were calling me up and saying, okay, I'm ready now. I'm going to sign up. And instead of being like, woo, I was like, okay, let's get you signed up. Sure.
You want?
And that was the experience I needed, the experiential knowledge, right? Which is better than any other kind of knowledge, to bring to my now entrepreneurial. I'm in control of my own earning potential, right? I'm a coach. And so now every time I have a consult and they say, no, not right now, I'm say, okay, well, I really can believe it's not right now. Because before, when I was being trained, they would say, well, it's not a no, it's just a not right now. And I was like, you're so full of crap. It's a no.
Whatever. You guys don't know what you're talking about. I don't care that you made $3 million last year. You don't know what you're talking about.
Totally. And so with that experience, I could actually believe it and be like, yeah, it is a not right now. And just because I'm not collecting the money right now doesn't mean they're not going to create, and I've seen in my own life, we always create the perfect storm that brings us to our knees, a full stop, where we cannot continue being the person that we are, and we have to blossom. We have to, answer the call to be the new up-leveled version of ourselves. And I'm like, don't call me. They're not completely fed up with their own BS yet. And I don't want to work with them if they're not.
That's right. They're not ready. Anything you say won't sink in because they won't do it because they're not sufficiently prepared and ready and open to the change. So yeah, you really do have to wait until they're just like, find somebody help. I hate this. I'm ready. Yeah. But it does take time.
Yeah. And even like an unsubscribe, right? I sent out my newsletter. Sure. And an unsubscribe, I used to be like, oh, what did I say? What did I do? And now I'm like, well, that's just not I'm not the coach for them. And it's not their path, or, I'm being saved from a bullet here.
Yeah. Oh, that is so true. Like sometimes you just go, okay, I guess I'm not the person for them. And sometimes you realize, wow, thank goodness I didn't get that one.
Yes.
Because what a nightmare it would have been.
And I worked with enough nightmares to see them coming a mile away. But it's important, to be grounded in reality when those things happen, because we don't want to be positively bypassing toxic positivity and deluding ourselves. If we're getting unsubscribe after unsubscribe, like just a whole bunch of unsubscribes, it's pretty delusional to say it's not me, it's them. Right. You have to
find that balance.
Courageous enough and honest with yourself enough to be like, okay, I'm doing something that's off-putting here. Right. And it doesn't mean I'm bad. It means that I just don't understand something and I can understand it. Or there's a gap in information for me, or there's a skill gap for me that I can totally make up. I can figure this out. Yes. And the old me would have been like, oh, I'm just awful. I'm not good enough for this. I should just quit.
Yes. Yeah. And that's so true. Because when that happens and you see that pattern, you go, okay, was that, one or two that left because they're just done? Or is this, 25 that have left and my list is shrinking rapidly? Perhaps I need to talk to a marketer, or I need to
I need a coach to show me what toxic energy I'm bringing that's in my blind spot. That I can't see.
Right. Yeah. What did I put in my last 3 emails that really drove them away? Maybe you just left a gap. I do that sometimes. I'll make a leap where to me, the path is really clear and super logical. And to everyone else, they're like, how'd you get there? And I go, oh, I left out steps. I'm sorry. Because I'll just go fast and I leave out steps. And I forget that other people probably would have done better if I had put the steps in.
Our brains do that. We think it's a linear place, and then another objective that's less emotionally attached to it. They're like, wait a second. I remember when I think I was in 3rd grade or something, I had this crush on this boy, and my brain, underdeveloped as it was, I found out what street he lived on. And so I got out the phone book, and I found in the phone book one address on that street. And so that was definitely his address.
Clearly.
That was it. Obviously. And so I put hearts and balloons and stuff on his door. And I couldn't understand that the person was like, stop doing this. He doesn't live here. Took me a second. But our brains will jump from this piece of information and fill in all the blanks. And that's why, as a coach, it's super important for me to keep myself in curiosity and non-judgment.
Right.
Right. And when I'm working with a client, to bring attention to, when they're drawing that conclusion, I'm like, okay, show me how you got there, because I'm not seeing the steps. And when they do it from their rational mind and not their emotional mind,
yes,
they're like, oh yeah, I guess that doesn't really make sense.
That's exactly what happens. Wait, so I should, yeah, all the time.
And that's why coaches need coaches, therapists need therapists. You can't see what you can't see.
I have more than one coach, at least 3.
Me too.
Like, yeah, because for sure, for different areas, absolutely. What are you most excited about right now in your business or anything else?
Oh man, I am so excited. I've never been so booked as a coach.
Cool.
I've never been so fully stepping into my identity as a coach and my belief in myself, what I offer, and my client's ability to take what I offer to get the results that they want. And it feels so good.
That's awesome.
It really feels so good. And I have more money in my bank account than I've ever had, coaching money. I'm like actually full-time working my business, and I'm bringing my best self and my best certainty to my business. And holy crap, it's manifesting the exact congruent results.
So it's working.
Work. Yes, it really does work.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you, Merianne. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It was one of my favorite topics to talk about. So
awesome.
Thank you so much. And thank you for what you do with this podcast. What a great service it is for somebody who is in the spot that I was in, floundering, like, okay, what I'm doing is not working. What is going to work? And then enough repetition of hearing us crazy people say it's your mind, it's your thoughts, enough hearing that, they're finally going to go, okay, fine, maybe it is this.
Yes. I don't think I can have too many episodes talking about mindset, because each one will resonate with somebody differently. And hopefully we reach someone that needed us to reach them.
Amen.
If you want to get in touch with Merianne, you can do so through her website, which is www.meriannedrew.com. Let me spell it for you. MERIANNEDREW.com. Thank you as well to all of our listeners and viewers. I'm your host, Camille Diaz, specialize in financial education, life insurance with living benefits, and guaranteed lifetime income. You can contact me and find out what else I'm up to in my coaching and my books and all that great stuff through my website, CamilleDiaz.com. Follow me on social media at Cam Unfiltered, and be sure to follow MoneyHeart at MoneyHeart Show and on our website, MoneyHeartShow.com. Merianne, would you like to remind us of today's money mantra?
There's always more where that came from.
Love it. Thank you.